Hello everyone, this is Jasmine aka Gladiatorinsweats, and I'm here with another video, and we're going over an overview of the Green Castle, which is the court of matrix or the court of synchronization or of enchantment. So briefly I'm going to try my best to describe what the castles are and what they represent, and then I will go into the court of matrix and what I feel the important key points are. We'll talk about the transits that are taking place, and then we'll go over the oracle card that I also pulled as far as the overall purpose and goal. So, just to try and go over what the castles are. So I will enter a picture here of the Solkin, or Tolkien, however you pronounce it. But this is all based off of this synchrometer, if you will. That's really what it's called, or that's really the description of it, because it's not necessarily like just a calendar. It's really a synchronistic pattern, a complex pattern that can be seen on many different levels and able to correspond and really give us information about not just what's taking place, but what has taken place, and so on and so forth. There's so much you could talk about this, and maybe I'll really talk about that in a whole other video. But I really want to keep this brief just so that you can understand this, so I can discuss what this castle represents. So, in the token, there's 260 days, or there's 260 units to this board. And so by breaking it up in different ways, you're able to see the different patterns, just to kind of give it the most basic level. So when it's broken up into these 5 different castles of 52 days, we're able to see a certain pattern or a certain activity or process taking place. So within this particular castle that I'm talking about, it's the 5th castle, the very last castle before we enter a whole nother spin, a galactic spin, which is, the label of like a whole nother rotation of that 260 unit pattern. So from here, within a castle are the 4 wave spells. So, like I was saying before, if you could kind of see the 5 castles almost like seasons, although I don't really want to connect it that way, because the galactic, the synchrometer can also be broken up into seasons, which would be the actual 4 seasons. So, this is just taking it a little bit further, like a little bit smaller of a fractal into the 5th, into 5 castles. So, we have these 4 wave spells, which, like I said before, there's 13 days within a wave spell. So then you have 4 times 13, which brings you that 52. Multiply that 52 times 5, then you get that 260. So I hope that makes sense. I'm actually thinking I'll try and post a picture from my almanac to help kind of show this a little bit better. So now we're going to actually talk about this green central castle of enchantment, which is the court of synchronization and synchronizing the human. So within our year, this is actually taking place September 4th to October 25th of this year. And as I did say before, this is rounding off the end of the token, which is going to set us off into the next galactic spin. So the next new token starts on the 26th, as it does end on the 25th of October. And so, as I talked about in the Red Moon wave spell, which you can check that video out, I guess I will put a little link up right here, or leave it somewhere you can check it out if you are inclined to do so. We'll have 4 of these wave spells, like I said. We're starting with the red moon wave spell that does start and conclude between the 4th and the 16th of this month. But we will also have the white wind wave spell, the blue eagle wave spell, and the yellow star wave spell. So these will all be the wave spells of universal water, of spirit, of vision, and of elegance. And so as we go through this, I'll talk about this a little bit further, but just try and kind of boil it into like a small little summary. Within this castle, we're going through a process of purification as well as a development and receiving truth, and not just receiving truth, but of connecting to our higher selves, connecting to, our spirit guides, or connecting to our spirit family, or just those in our life that we're, destined or meaning to connect with, to kind of get the ball rolling as we move into this, clean slate, if you will, almost like a brand. It's not necessarily like a brand new, but it feels just brand new. I mean, things are just really changing within our personal individual lives, to our community, like just on the different levels of, from the small to the large within our environments. You can just see how the changes are developing, and seeing how it's all creating this like Mandela effect. And so, the important transits, though, that I did want to bring up that will be taking place. So, we do have 2 planets going direct. We have Saturn and Pluto going direct at this time. Saturn will be going direct within a few days of this video. So that's the first thing where, we'll feel this kind of actual like collective like break being taken off, and we're actually like kind of getting the go ahead almost from the teacher, like after they've given our review, like, okay, this is what you need to do next, this, or not necessarily just next, but like, like all of these ideas and things that I've been talking about, as far as, getting clear on what we want to do, the things that we feel that we need to do before we can even start fresh. Like, we're just really kind of assessing all the different parts that kind of need to, get started, or need to be taken care of, or, need to be just even spoken of, or just be brought to the awareness. Like, there's just all of this has been taking place, and now we're kind of getting this go ahead, or not necessarily we are, but it's a reflection of what we're doing, really. So it's like we're going ahead now, we're gonna get started to actually, make the right moves. And not just that, but with Pluto also going direct in October, all of this transformation and all of this, deep internal, not just, pulling out of like the not just like the toxins. I don't want to just call it like a toxin, but it's like just more of like pulling out the things that like we haven't been looking at fully, so that we can really just either like, get rid of it for good, or so that things can end for good. So, or maybe things need some sort of like mental closure or emotional closure. But I feel with, Saturn and Pluto, this is very physical too, to where collectively there are these physical structural changes where, they're kind of going head to head, both Pluto and Saturn, in Capricorn. But ultimately, I feel like there's this, they're going head to head, to where it's like it makes me think of a volcano for whatever reason. It just makes me think of like 2 things coming together and hitting each other hard, and then they both just kind of like explode to create like a brand new something out of the chaos and commotion that was created. So I hope that kind of makes sense. That's just the way I'm picturing it in my mind, of like just a lot of structural changes on just like many different within like our societal structures, within like our social communal structures too. We have Venus going retrograde, so this is all about our heart, the heart space, stuff having to come back up, Venus in Scorpio too, in her detriment. Like that's not really a space where Venus would be, seemingly most comfortable. That's where not necessarily where things are necessarily all aligned, but it's like it's the true. It's the realness without the illusion of things. And so of these things having to kind of deal with how we're really feeling. And not just that, but also I feel this is also, I feel on another level of integration too, of there's this death that has to take place, or not necessarily like a death, but it's like again, like a shedding. There's a shedding of this skin. So, how I've been talking about how the heart cracked open, that's kind of the way I'm seeing it. It's like we've been cracking the shell, like it's been cracking because the heart has been having to move and expand in ways it hasn't moved and expand before. And so the shell has been cracking, right? It's been cracking, but it hasn't like just fallen off, right? The shields and the armors we've put on have not really fallen off. And so that's what I kind of feel here with Venus retrograde, underneath, all of these planets now starting to be direct, all of these planets in these very feminine signs, in these feminine energies. From what I was reading, it seems like we're going to have all of these planets in these feminine energies. So it's not going to be about us so focused on like doing or even just keeping up the illusions and keeping up the facades. It's people kind of coming to their realest, truest natures, and good, bad, and indifferent, like I often say, where we can just, be our truest selves, where it's like, yeah, I don't actually want to put up with that anymore. And this is, where people, you can see this even where, the whole idea of social correctness or social what do they call it, like politically correct, where even people like on that flip side of things, where it's like there's people that are like, yeah, I want to push for these changes of people having to be treated wrong for things. You have people that are like, yeah, but I also want their truest parts of themselves at that moment that are needing to be brought to their awareness. So like, yeah, I am not wanting to put up with all of these things. Like everyone's honestly just being themselves, and it's really so that we're able to go through that whatever it is we have to, so that we can just kind of fast forward this process of hopefully forgiveness and gratitude. And well, eventually after the fact, because we are humans and we have to go through our process of, everyone's right or wrong and I'm right or wrong, and all of this comparison and all of this needing to, fend for themselves and only fend for who they feel they resonate with. Like, if they feel they only, not only, but like where, I want to defend my race, or I want to defend my gender, or I want to defend my political class, or like, just everyone getting in this defensive mode, which that's also for me what I feel is just a part of this lunar moon too, of, oh, not just, this hasn't been just going on now, but it just reminds me of the totem animal of the scorpion. And it reminds me of this notion of, kind of needing to always, well, the scorpions, but when you just think of like the arachnids in general, when you think of spiders, you think of like how they don't really have a very thick shell, or they don't really have a shell, and their defense, or they have a shell but they don't have vertebrae, and they don't really have anything outside of the armor that they've put up, because inside of them is so raw and so pure, and so it's it's without boundary, it's unity. And that's ultimately what I am feeling coming through as we are moving into this red moon cycle. But also because this card that I pulled for us, this Mulu card, is the red moon card. Or, yeah, it is the red moon card. So not only does it resonate with this wave spell, but it also resonates with this galactic year. And I feel like this is, again, how this is this culmination of all these castles, and we're coming into synchronization so we can kind of move into the next castle, which is the first castle of birth, of, initiating the seed, of turning the next page. And so I I really do want to spend a bit more time talking about, this red moon energy over this wave spell. So, yeah, I don't want to make this video like too long. So I do want to talk about that a lot more later on. But that's pretty much really it. I mean, we do have fall equinox, which is, just the harvest season that we're in, which, again, all all of these calendars, or, just all of these ways in which we keep time, they're all syncing up. Like, it's really, we're all falling into this synchronization process of being able to really, like, where what I hope this makes sense. The way I'm seeing it is almost like where all the water collects together, where it makes me think of like a whirlpool, and just all the water from the outside gets like sucked into the black hole of the center. And it's just like, as the circle continues, what doesn't stay, like what doesn't stick, like what isn't heavy in truth, kind of has to fall out in this process. I I feel like there's something like a salad spinner, if that kind of makes sense, like when it's like wicking off the water. That's kind of the way I'm seeing it. And I hope that that's kind of making sense. But yeah. And as I was mentioning, like on my Instagram and before, of this, after this castle, we'll be entering the Scorpio season, and it also will end with this full moon in Taurus. And I see this almost as this giving birth. I feel that not just myself, but even others I've been talking to, there's been like this, or even as I've been talking before, there's like this like collective like astral pregnancy here, where we're really in this womb, we're really in our unconscious, we're really in the spiritual matter of things, like over, not necessarily even overlaid. It's like an overlay is actually coming off. There's actually a veil that's actually being lifted. It's not necessarily like there's another veil coming back on. It's actually a layer being taken off, or really layers being taken off. So, yeah, and like I said, with this Muluk card, I do want to just read the keywords that go with this, and then I'll close this off. So, the key qualities that do go with this card are lunar intelligence and wisdom, signals, signs, awakened attention, self-remembrance, divine guidance, God seed, cosmic communication, and beacon. So I'll be talking more about this card throughout the week. And yeah, this is really about us, again, taking off that veil of forgetfulness, become the beacon of awakened awareness. As you open to self-remembrance, you will fully receive divine guidance and be with others who support your fullest expression. So I'll talk more about that in another video. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that made sense. And again, I'll end that there. As always, with much love, and I wish y'all many, many blessings. I will see y'all in the next video.